Good morning, how are you? So I've been absent for a couple of days thanks to a very busy schedule, but I'm back here to have this conversation with you, and I'm always grateful that we can connect here and in a sense engage on the deeper meaning of existence, of life, of what it all means to exist. Many of you are sending me questions from having read this book, You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters. But feel free to send me any question on any topic. And the place to send these questions is info@jayo.com, info@jayo.com. Once again, info@jayo.com. And while you're at it, please go to jayo.com, download the app, and join this community, this wonderful community that we are building. Wonderful community that we are building to create a critical mass of personal and social transformation so that we can all move in the direction of more peace, towards a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful planet. Jayo.com is the app. Jayo is the app. You can download it from iTunes and also on Android. And you'll find many experts there, and there's something called Jayo Learn where you can take courses as well once you go to Jayo. Okay, so today's question, rather I should say today's topic, is triggered by a question from Indrani Guha. And so I'm not directly answering her question, but indirectly, because her question led to some very interesting thoughts in me. But let me repeat her question first. Indrani Guha says, when one stays in presence, which is minimal thought activity, I find myself becoming blank. I'm forgetting dates, names, events, almost as though someone or something has erased my hard drive. Is this normal? It's difficult to function socially when the mind is so still. It doesn't want to engage or act. Can you tell me what to do? Many thanks for all you do and who you are. Sincerely, Indrani Guha. So I guess this can be an experience in the beginning when your identity shifts from your personality or ego to a deeper level, which you very beautifully call presence or just awareness. When you recognize that you are not your thoughts or your perceptions or the images in your consciousness or the sensations in your body, but you are the presence in which that experience is happening. So there is a tendency for detachment. And your question is right. There is a tendency for detachment. But now the next step is how do you stay engaged and detached at the same time? That's the meaning of the expression Yogast Kuru Karmani. Yogast Kuru Karmani. Okay? Established in yoga, perform action. Established in being, perform action. Established in awareness, perform action. Established in centeredness of existence, perform action. So, very kind of jokingly, I've said this is the dance between being and doing. Do-be-do-be-do. 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 Move from being to doing, and in between there is everything else. There's feeling, there's reflecting, there's imagining, There's intuition, there's insight, there's introspection, there is creativity, and there is longing for manifestation. So this is all between being and doing, the dance between being and doing. As I said again, it is the dance that we call dooby-dooby-doo, dooby-dooby-doo. Okay, but now let me go to Indrani's question a little more. Then how do you do this? Well, you actually engage in what becomes metacognition. Soon you have conscious awareness of sensory perception, and at the same time conscious awareness of the choices that you're making. So you tend less to be a biological robot. You tend less to be triggered by situations, circumstances, events, relationships, and people into predictable outcomes. That is what is referred to in Eastern traditions as karmic bondage. As I've said before, in the Shiva Sutras, there's a phrase, use memories, but do not allow memories to use them. Right, it's not mental cognition. Rache writes as mental cognition. No, the word I used was metacognition. The ability to be aware of perceptual experience, thoughts, images, sensations, and choices. Just to be aware, and then to consciously make those choices, and consciously be aware of this experience that you're having right this moment. Okay, so this is the key to being established in presence and performing action. As for your forgetting dates, names, events, it's actually not true. You think you are, but actually you're consolidating memories in a much deeper way. And in fact, it's now known that deep sleep, exercise, and meditation all consolidate long-term memory. So you are feeling a little distressed right now because in that moment, there is no need to retrieve a memory. For example, if I asked you right now, do you remember the house you lived in? That memory is there. As soon as you close your eyes, you can visualize the house you lived in when you were a teenager, or when you're a child, you might remember your classroom in school. Where is that memory before I asked you to retrieve it? So the memory is always there. And in fact, it gets consolidated in sleep, meditation, exercise, and being the state that we call being awareness, just to be aware. So not to worry about that. That will soon integrate it. But your question has actually led to a deeper query, which is very important. Where is memory? Where is memory? Because the clue to that may be, in fact, the clue to the mystery of our entire existence. And I will talk about that as soon as I return in 15 seconds. So here we are. I promised that I would now try my best to explain how memory is a clue to the mystery of our existence. So let me ask you something. What did you have for dinner last night? So close your eyes and just remember that experience, what you had for dinner last night. And of course, immediately you have an experience. You can see where you were, maybe at a restaurant or at home. You can, in your mind's eye, you can see an image of what you ate. You can even recall the taste of the food and the people you were. Where was that memory before I asked you to recall it? That's the big mystery. Now, as soon as you recall the memory, there was activity on what humans call the brain. So, we have the ability to now see through imaging techniques that there's electrochemical activity in different parts of the brain when you recall the memory. So when you recall the memory, if it's a visual memory, your occipital cortex will light up, and depending on whether it's a tactile memory or memory of taste or smell or any other experience, different parts of the brain will light up. And actually, as you recall the memory, many parts of the brain will connect with each other and simultaneously and synchronistically, and you will have an experience. The experience is actually in consciousness, even though the activity that is happening that we can look at objectively is in the brain. But the brain is also ultimately an experience in consciousness. How do you know that there is a brain? Well, you've either seen it, a picture of it, or you've seen a model of it, or you've seen your own brain on a CAT scan, or you've seen a brain on a dissection table, etc. So the brain itself is a perceptual experience. The brain itself is a perceptual experience. So here I want to take you to a deeper mystery. No one actually knows the cellular basis of memory. No one knows the cellular basis of memory. The memory exists as potential till the moment of recall. And then at the moment of recall, the memory becomes an experience in consciousness which has what are called neural correlates in the brain. Okay, so this is the mystery that people call the hard problem of consciousness. In other words, there is no physical explanation at the moment for any experience. Right now, there's no physical explanation for the experience you're having right now. The experience you're having right now is that you're looking at an image on the screen of your device. And what's coming to your eyes are photons. What's going to your brain is an action potential or an electrical current. What's happening in the brain is electrochemistry, but you're experiencing, looking at me right now, and you're experiencing the room you're in, you're experiencing the painting behind me, and the pillow there, and the sofa. So here you are. You're having an experience. And there is no explanation for that experience based on everything we know about the brain and about cognition or about perception. Okay? Everything that we know about any experience, this is not known now, how the brain produces that experience. We know what the activity of the brain is. And it's all electrochemical activity. It's neurons firing together, it's synchronicity in the brain, it's called binding, but nobody actually knows how that translates into experience. Now, those of us who do not believe that the physical world is an accurate description of reality, those of us who are not naive realists, those of us who believe that that which we call the physical world or matter is in human interpretation for sensory or perceptual experience, and then that human interpretation itself is an activity of consciousness. Those of us who recognize or believe through our own meditation practices that thoughts, feelings, sensations, images, and perceptions are all entangled in consciousness, and that what we call experience is the manifestation of this entanglement of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, which are modifications of experience, then the hard problem is solved. There is no hard problem. The mind is an activity in consciousness. The perception, or that which we call perception, which leads to the experience of that which we call the material world, is also an activity in consciousness. and that the mind, brain, and world are a unified experience in consciousness as a result of self-interactions of consciousness. In other words, there is only consciousness, and everything else is an evanescent experience in consciousness. Everything else is an evanescent experience in consciousness. Deanne Reed says, what is the purpose? I don't know what the purpose is, other than we can say it's a play of consciousness as it manifests into experience. Consciousness by itself is, as pure consciousness, devoid of any experience. It's the presence that Indrani is talking about. And as it interacts with itself, it creates the experience of subject and object. Okay, right now, I'm the subject of experience, and your feedback is the object of experience to me right now on the screen. But for you, you are the subject of experience, and what you're observing as me on your screen is the object of experience. So what is called fundamental reality, which is the consciousness in which all this happens, is beyond subject and object, and it is that which experiences itself as innumerable minds, therefore innumerable modes of knowing based on conditioning, and innumerable objects observed also as a result of the expression of the entangled information that exists as potential thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, and perceptions in that which we call being or consciousness. So, my friend Michael Shermer, with whom I've been having conversations about naive realism and naive skepticism, he recently sent me an email and said, okay, but what good is this anyway? We still have to, I still have to raise my son, I have to raise a family, I have to make a living, I have to, I like to ride my bike, and I have to pay my mortgage. And so, how does it help? Will life be any different? And I did write back to Michael Shermer, and what I explained was, you will still be doing everything that you do, be engaged in life, but you will not be bamboozled by the superstition of matter, because matter is just the interpretation of experience. In this case, the human interpretation of perceptual experience that we have through our human nervous system. So the human nervous system gives us a species-specific experience of that which we call reality, and then we interpret that as matter. If you really understand this, then mind, body, and universe are human interpretations of experience, which is the self-interaction of consciousness that appears as both subject and object of experience. Remember that mind, body, and universe are a unified activity, and before you interpret an object as anything, a book, a painting, a hand, a face, these glasses, this red sweater, before that interpretation, which is a human interpretation, its color, its form, it is shape, it is sound, it is taste, it is smell, then the interpretation is a human construct, which is, oh, that's Deepak, and he's wearing a red sweater, that's a painting, that's a sofa, that's a book. These are very useful constructs because they helped us create what we call human civilization, but also that which is the experience which we call the human universe. So, to my friend Michael and to all of you, what good is it? Well, it's very good because, scientific constructs, theological constructs, philosophical constructs, even religious constructs are particular maps. P.T. Diana Beatrice says qualities. Yes, qualities of consciousness, or qualia, are the vocabulary of consciousness that builds the experience, human experience of mind, body, universe. So why is this important? Well, it's not important if you just want to go through life like a biological robot, and that's the end of the whole thing. But it is very useful if you want to know what is fundamental existence, and the fundamental existence is actually basically that which gives rise to all experience. And that's who we are, because the experience itself is very evanescent. Very evanescent. Experience is born and dies eternally in that which we call now. And that now is not a moment in time. Nobody's experienced a moment show up from the, future, become present, leave, followed by another moment, show up from the future, become present, leave, followed by another moment. And you can reverse that. No one's experienced a past moment, show up to become present moment and drift into the future moment. So now is not a moment in time, because time itself is a human construct, as is space, as is energy, as is information, as is matter. All human constructs, useful human constructs, but also dangerous, because if we mistake the map for the territory, the symbol for the reality, then we create all kinds of other conundrums. Like birth and death, and identifying with the body, identifying with the mind, identifying with experience. And as I just said, experience is ungraspable. Ungraspable. That's why the Buddha said this lifetime of ours is transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of beings is like looking at the movements of a dance. A lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky, rushing by like a torrent down a steep mountain. So, these insights of the Buddha on the impermanence of experience, in the falseness of the separate self, led him to state that nirvana is the ultimate reality. So Olga Veronin says, is consciousness yet another construct? Well, we have to use words. That's why we're having this conversation. So consciousness is a word for the absence of experience, but the presence of awareness. Consciousness is the potential for all experience. Consciousness has the potential for all experience. Hence it is not in time. Hence it is formless. Hence it cannot be visualized or seen or perceived, but it makes all of that possible. That's the real meaning of Tattvamasi. I am that, you are that, all this is that, that alone is. Nirvana is the knowing of being that manifests as thinking, as feeling, as perceiving, and as that which we call mind, body, and universe. So once we go beyond these constructs, which are maps for experience, if you have a theological map, then you'll experience a theological reality. If you have a scientific map, you will experience a scientific reality, because the map helps you navigate. It creates a model for experiencing that which we call reality. Just like if I want to go from New York, where I am now, to Boston, I could use a road map, I could use an aerial map, I can even use a sea map, or, go by the ocean, and different maps would give me different experiences, but I do not mistake the map for the territory. One of the biggest sciences emerging today is the science of semiotics. And semiotics says that what we call reality, everyday reality, is a symbol of reality. That our biological organism, or that which we call our biological organism, is a symbol of consciousness. That which we call our mind is a symbol of consciousness. That which we call the world is a symbol of consciousness. But consciousness itself is eternal, not forever. Eternal means not in space-time. Always now. And this eternally recycles itself along certain patterns. And these patterns are what we call memory. That somehow memory is never erased. It just becomes a potential for experience. And past patterns of memory recycle as patterns of memory all over again, endlessly. So these patterns of recycling in Sanskrit are called vasanas, sanskaras, even karma. Again, metaphorically, I would say that metaphorically, the analogy of the wave particle is very good, because once a wave collapses along into a particular space-time event, then it statistically collapses more in the direction of what we call the patterns of collapse in the past. Okay, so meditation allows you to actually not be bound by experience and yet be fully engaged in the experience. So ultimately, nirvana is the enlightenment, that you're not a fragmented, separate self, but you are the eternal, inseparable, entangled consciousness, entangled with all that exists, experiencing yourself, your real self, your true self, as both the subject and object of experience, and that the self itself is not subject to birth and death. It is beyond birth and death. What is happening is that experience is being born and is dying in an eternal now, which itself is not a moment in time. There are no moments in time. There are only endless cycles of collapse and then of that which we call consciousness into memory, desire, and experience. So I tried to make this as clear as possible. Gillian Hendricks says, woot, woot. Please explain what woot woot is. I'm doing my best to articulate in language what is almost inexpressible. That's why big experiences, transcendent moments have always been very difficult to express. So I'll end with Rumi's phrase, which is beautiful. And he says, God's language is silence. Everything else is poor translation. Elena Navarro says, this is very clear. Thank you, Elena. And I will continue this conversation with you again. Didi Banerjee explained what woot woot means. It means, wow, okay, I get it. So thank you. I want to just add one more thing, that the mystery of our existence and the awareness of the mystery of our experience, woot woot means cheers. Cheers. Okay, thank you for explaining. So here's what I want to end with, that the existence and the mystery of awareness of existence there's no real explanation other than it's a play of consciousness which conceals itself, then reveals itself, then conceals itself. So the self-concealment of consciousness is the forgetting of infinity for a finite experience. Self-concealment of consciousness is the forgetting of the infinite being for a finite experience. And then, sorry for the interrupt, revealing that is the play between being and doing. So concealment, revealment, incubation, death, resurrection, manifestation, unmanifest. This is all the play of consciousness. This is what the word Tattvamasi means. I am that, you are that, all this is that, that alone is. And what is that? Consciousness. It's also the meaning of the phrase Aham Brahmasmi. I am the universe. Okay, thank you very much for joining me today, and I'll see you tomorrow.